All right, welcome back to the deep dive, everybody. Today we are diving into some pretty serious accusations surrounding P. Diddy. You know, Diddy, the rapper, producer,
This is
entrepreneur.
Sean Combs.
Yeah, exactly, Sean Combs. Our main source today is a YouTube video breakdown from the Law and Crime Network, and it's really shedding light on some pretty heavy stuff.
Definitely. And it's going to bring in other big names, too.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to try to untangle all these allegations, figure out exactly who else is involved, and try to understand what it all means.
Yeah, and I think a good place to start is with the music producer, Rodney Jones. He also goes by Lil Rod, and he's the one who filed this lawsuit against Diddy.
Oh, okay, so Lil Rod is the one who, kicked all this off.
Yeah, he's at the center of it. And get this, the lawsuit is 73 pages long.
73 pages.
73 pages.
Oh, wow. There must be a lot to unpack there. What exactly is Lil Rod alleging?
Well, he's accusing Diddy of some pretty disturbing things, like forcing him to hire and engage with sex workers,
Yeah.
even physical assault.
Whoa, hold on. This isn't the first time we've heard accusations like this against Diddy, right?
It's not, no.
What about that lawsuit from his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura? Didn't she accuse him of some pretty horrific things?
She did. Sex trafficking, sexual slavery, even rape and physical abuse.
Oh, right. I remember that.
Yeah, and a really disturbing part of her lawsuit was that she claimed Diddy forced her into sexual acts with other women and recorded it.
That's just awful. And didn't that lawsuit get settled, really fast?
Yeah, one day after she filed it. But those accusations are important because Lil Rod's lawsuit is alleging a similar pattern of behavior.
So both Cassie and Lil Rod are accusing Diddy of the same types of things.
Exactly. And one of the most troubling things that Lil Rod alleges is that Diddy was grooming him.
Grooming.
Yeah, basically preparing him to be, for lack of a better term, passed around to his friends for sexual purposes.
So that's terrible. Does he name any of these friends specifically in the lawsuit?
He does. One of the biggest names is Cuba Gooding Jr. Lil Rod says that while he was on Diddy's yacht, Gooding Jr. groped him.
Hey, doesn't Cuba Gooding Jr. already have a history of sexual assault allegations against him?
Yeah. Over the past few years, Gooding Jr. has been accused of groping multiple women. He actually even reached a plea deal, had to attend counseling, but avoided jail time.
So, with these new allegations from Lil Rod, could Gooding Jr. actually face charges this time?
Potentially, yeah. These new accusations align with the previous ones, so they could really strengthen the case against him by establishing a pattern of behavior. It'll depend on the statute of limitations for some of these claims, and if enough witnesses are willing to come forward.
Wow. And this is already a lot to process, but Lil Rod's lawsuit doesn't stop there, does it?
It doesn't. He even brings Jennifer Lopez into the mix.
J-Lo, what could she possibly be involved in?
He's referring to an incident back in 1999. There was a shooting at a nightclub. Diddy was involved. Lil Rod's alleging that J-Lo, who was dating Diddy at the time, brought a gun into the club for him.
Whoa, okay. That's a huge accusation. What kind of legal trouble could she be facing if that's true?
It's hard to say for sure. We need more details about the specific firearm laws in New York at the time, whether anyone was actually hurt with the weapon. But regardless, transporting a firearm to a location where a shooting occurs is a very serious matter.
Someone did get shot that night, didn't they?
Yeah. A rapper named Shine signed to Diddy's label. He ended up serving a 10-year prison sentence for the shooting. Lil Rod is also claiming that Diddy actually paid Shine $1 million to take the fall.
Oh, wow. Okay, this is getting more and more complicated by the minute. Even if J-Lo didn't pull the trigger, just being connected to bringing a gun to a scene like that could really damage her career, right?
Absolutely. J-Lo has a very specific brand, a very carefully cultivated image. Being associated with something like this, a violent incident, could be devastating for her career and could even open her up to lawsuits.
Right, so we've got Cassie Ventura, Lil Rod, Cuba Gooding Jr., J-Lo, and then somehow Prince Harry gets dragged into this too.
Yeah, it is kind of a lot to take in. So Lil Rod's lawsuit mentions that Prince Harry attended some of the parties that Diddy threw.
There aren't any accusations against Harry himself, though, are there?
No direct accusations against Harry. But Lil Rod's legal team seems to be using Harry's presence at these parties to try to establish a pattern of Diddy surrounding himself with high-profile, influential people.
So, trying to make it seem like he's untouchable. If I'm hanging out with royalty, I can't be involved in anything shady, right?
Exactly. It's a tactic to create a facade of respectability, even if, as these lawsuits allege, there's something much darker going on behind the scenes.
It reminds me of Jeffrey Epstein, how he was always surrounded by all these celebrities and politicians. It's almost like a way to make yourself seem untouchable.
That's a really interesting connection, yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like both Epstein and Diddy, according to these accusations, really curated their public image very carefully. And that brings us to another unsettling detail in Lil Rod's lawsuit. He claims Diddy had a handler, just like Epstein did.
A handler. What do they mean by handler?
He's referring to Diddy's chief of staff, Christina Coram. The lawsuit compares her to Ghislaine Maxwell, who was Epstein's associate. Lil Rod's alleging that Coram was responsible for getting drugs and sex workers for Diddy, for his guests, too.
Wow, okay. Could she be facing serious legal consequences, too?
It's definitely possible. In these kinds of cases, the handlers often bear a lot of the legal responsibility. They're facilitating the abuse, even if they're not directly participating.
This is a lot. So many allegations, so many big names. Where does this even go from here?
Well, based on the Law and Crime Network video, it seems like this could potentially escalate to federal charges. Not just for Diddy, but for some of his associates, too.
Federal charges, that's serious.
Very serious. But it's important to remember that Diddy and his legal team are denying everything. His attorney has called Lil Rod's accusations complete lies and says it's just a desperate attempt to get attention.
Right. Diddy's son, Justin Combs, has spoken out, too. He's calling it a desperate attempt for a payday.
Right. And it's important to remember that everyone is innocent until proven guilty. But still, with the potential for a federal investigation, this whole situation is about to get even more complicated.
So we've got accusations flying, potential criminal charges, and a whole list of familiar names caught up in this web. It's messy, it's unfolding, and honestly, it's pretty disturbing.
It really is. And this isn't even the whole story. There's one more major twist we need to discuss, and it involves Homeland Security.
Homeland Security. Okay, now I'm really intrigued. We're going to have to save that for next time. But for now, we want to hear from you. What are your initial thoughts on all of this? The accusations themselves, the power dynamics at play here? Give it some thought, because we're just getting started. We'll be back soon with part 2 of this deep dive.
So, welcome back. I think we're diving deeper into this, trying to understand the bigger picture here. With these allegations against P. Diddy, not just looking at the individual accusations.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And it's honestly a lot to take in, to wrap our heads around, But yeah, I'm ready. Where do we even begin with all this?
Well, I think it's interesting, this idea that Diddy was using his parties and connections, right, to cultivate this certain image. If this is true, it's really manipulative.
It's like building a smokescreen, using fame and influence to make himself seem untouchable. It really does remind me of Jeffrey Epstein, and how he used his wealth and connections to lure people into his circle.
That's a great point, yeah. It seems like both Epstein and Diddy, according to these accusations at least, really carefully crafted their public image. They surrounded themselves with celebrities, high-profile figures.
Yeah.
It's a way to project power, and potentially even silence anyone who might want to speak out against them.
It's a scary thought that someone could use their fame and power that way, to intimidate and silence others. And it's not just Diddy who's implicated in these accusations, right? His associates are named too, like his chief of staff, Christina Coram.
Yeah. And the lawsuit paints her as a really central figure in all this, someone who is facilitating a lot of Diddy's actions. And it really raises this question that's difficult, I think, to answer. To what extent are the people around an abuser? How much are they responsible for enabling the abuse?
Likes you.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, it makes you think about all the people who maybe knew what was going on, but they looked the other way, or maybe they felt powerless to actually speak up.
That's the really disturbing thing about these situations, right? That silence, inaction, can be just as damaging as active participation. And it really forces us to look at our own roles in these systems, right, of power and abuse.
And what about the media's role in all this? Does the way we portray celebrities, does that contribute to this idea that they're somehow above the law?
That's a really great point. The media definitely has a huge influence on how we perceive public figures. And, when we're constantly seeing celebrities being celebrated, right, for their wealth and their success, their connections, it creates this aura of invincibility, and it makes it so much harder for people to come forward with accusations.
Yeah, almost like we're conditioned to believe that famous people can get away with anything.
Right. And that's why it's so important to really think critically about the information we're given and hold people accountable, regardless of their status or their wealth.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about Diddy's alleged tactics and the bigger issues here of power, influence, complicity. What about the legal side of things? What happens next?
Well, I mean, based on the Long Crime Network video, I think it's very likely that there are already federal investigations underway, which means they're gathering evidence, they're interviewing witnesses, building a case, and that takes time. And, in the meantime, Diddy and his legal team will likely continue to deny everything, to fight back.
So we're kind of in for a waiting game.
In a way, yeah. But I think this is more than just a legal battle.
Yeah.
This is about potential victims seeking justice and hopefully a broader reckoning with the abuse of power in the music industry.
Yeah, it's about holding people accountable no matter how rich or famous they are.
Exactly. It'll be really interesting, I think, to see how this case unfold, how it impacts the industry. Will we see a turning point in how these types of situations are handled? Will more victims feel empowered to come forward?
Big questions for sure. And only time will tell, I guess. But there's still one piece of this puzzle we haven't really talked about yet, right? You mentioned something about Homeland Security.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah. So this is where things take a bit of a significant turn. The Long Crime Network video reports that both of Diddy's homes, the one in Miami and the one in Los Angeles, were raided by Homeland Security.
Homeland Security. Okay, why? Why would they be involved? What are they looking for?
So it seems that they're searching for specific evidence. And the video seems to point to videos as being particularly important.
Videos. Okay, what kind of videos are we talking about?
Well, remember Cassie Ventura's allegations? How Diddy recorded her without her consent during those forced encounters? And Lil Rod also mentioned Diddy's habit of filming himself.
Wait, so you're saying Homeland Security might be trying to find those recordings?
Potentially, yeah. Those videos, if they exist, could be really key in corroborating the victim stories and, building a really strong case against Diddy.
Wow. Okay, so now we're talking about potential federal charges.
Absolutely. If Homeland Security finds what they're looking for, this whole case could change very quickly.
Yeah. This deep dive has taken us from lawsuits and celebrity connections to potential federal investigations and Homeland Security raids. It's been wild.
It has. And it shows how important it is to really scrutinize powerful figures. Fame and fortune, they can be really blinding, but we have to remember that everyone is accountable for their actions.
Well said. So, I mean, what does all this mean for P. Diddy? What happens next?
It's tough to predict the future, right?
Right.
He's saying he's innocent, and his legal team is definitely fighting hard. But with these potential federal investigations, and, the possibility of incriminating video evidence coming out, he's facing a very uncertain future.
It's true. And this whole situation is a reminder that, power and influence can be misused. And it takes real courage to come forward, especially when you're facing someone as powerful as Diddy.
Absolutely. This whole thing highlights the need for accountability, for transparency, and, ultimately for justice.
We'll continue to follow this story, and we'll keep you updated as it develops. But for now, stay curious and keep asking those tough questions, All right, welcome back to the deep dive. We've been talking about these serious allegations against P. Diddy, and man, the story just keeps getting more and more complex. Last time, we were talking about, remember, the Homeland Security raids.
Yeah, that's where it really starts to feel like a whole other level, moving beyond just accusations and lawsuits into the realm of a possible federal investigation.
So let's just rewind a little bit. For anyone who's just joining us, why is Homeland Security even involved in this? What are they looking for with these raids?
Well, it seems like they're trying to find specific evidence. And the Long Crime Network video we keep mentioning, they seem to think that videos could be particularly important in this case.
Right. Videos. Can you just remind me again, what kind of videos are we talking about here?
So remember Cassie Ventura's allegations? How Diddy allegedly recorded her during those forced encounters without her consent? And then Lil Rod also mentioned that Diddy often filmed himself.
Okay, yeah, starting to come together now. So you're saying that Homeland Security might be looking for those recordings?
Potentially, yeah. Those recordings, if they exist, could be really crucial in backing up the victim's statements, helping to build a really strong case against Diddy.
So that really raises the stakes, right? Now we're talking possible federal charges.
Oh, absolutely. If Homeland Security finds what they're looking for, this whole case could change very quickly. And it wouldn't just be Diddy facing serious consequences either. It could be some of his associates too.
Man, it's a lot. This deep dive has really, shown us a side of power and fame that we don't always see. Started out with lawsuits, celebrity connections. Now we're talking federal investigations, maybe even criminal charges.
It's definitely a reminder that fame and fortune don't put you above the law. And it shows how much courage it takes for these victims to speak out, especially against someone as powerful as Diddy.
So what's next for P. Diddy? What are the possible outcomes here?
Well, to be honest, it's really impossible to say for sure. He's maintaining that he's innocent, his legal team's working hard. But with this potential federal investigation and, the possibility of these videos coming out, he's facing a pretty uncertain future.
Yeah, and I think this whole situation really forces us to think about power, and how it can be misused, and how important it is for us to support victims, to encourage them to come forward and share their stories, especially when they're up against someone with so much influence.
Absolutely. And it highlights the need for all of us to be more aware,
Yeah.
to be critical of what we see and what we hear, to hold people accountable, regardless of their wealth or their status, and to make sure that justice is served.
Well said. And that's a good place to leave it for today. We're going to continue to follow this story, and we'll be sure to keep you all updated as it develops. But for now, stay curious out there and keep asking those tough questions. Thanks for joining us for the deep dive.